Blessed to be a part of your day. KMLA in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Coming up, we'll hear from Dan in Middleton and Liberal Steve. But first, we're always trying to improve your life and make it better, give you the most information. Coming up, we'll talk a little bit about, the future of healthcare. Don't forget, tomorrow we are at UltraTouch Gas Station Car Wash, the Meridian location, right there on Fairview. I like to call it Cherry Lane, over by our friend Jeremy's place. Not to be confused with Kids Again, which we're right across the street from. We'll be celebrating Meridian, so if you live in Meridian, if you drive that Cherry Lane Fairview Avenue, give us a honk. You'll see the big blue tent, or stop by and say hi. UltraTouch Car Wash, home of the non-ethanol fuel right here in the Treasure Valley. Love those guys. Great car washes, great gas. Check us out tomorrow from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. saluting Meridian, Idaho. Sally Pipes joining us now from San Francisco, President and CEO of the Pacific Research Institute. Sally, good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, are you committed to living in California? We have a lot of your brothers and sisters that are moving here.
I know. Well, originally I'm from Canada, from Vancouver. And so we used to, before Whistler became really as sort of well-developed as it is, we used to go to Schweitzer Basin in Idaho and Sun Valley to ski. And Idaho is a fantastic place, but more and more people are leaving the state of California, and I wish we could, but how would you move the Pacific Research Institute to Idaho? We'd have to change the name. And my husband, who is a professor of politics and government at Claremont McKenna College, he's a conservative, but, I don't agree with it, but he has tenure, and as a conservative, he'd never be able to get a job in another academic institution because of his views. So we're probably stuck here, but we spend a lot of time talking about how we would love to leave the state of California. And one of the worst things, of course, is that California is on such a push towards a single-payer health care plan.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, the misconceptions about single-payer and the consequences.
So I think a lot of people don't understand what single-payer is. Single-payer means, I'm Canadian, I grew up under a single-payer system, Medicare for all. What single-payer means, there's one payer for your health care, and that payer is the government. So in Canada, all private health care is outlawed, so that 63,000 Canadians cross the border every year to pay out of pocket for health care in America when they think the waiting time is too long. But if we get a Bernie Sanders kind of Medicare for all system, that would mean the Aetnas, the Cignas, the Humanas, the Anthems would all be out of business, and Americans would face government being their payer. And of course, when the recent poll out of Kaiser Family Foundation, 59% of Americans support the idea of a single payer system, and 1/3 of those are reportedly Republicans. So, this is a very treacherous path that America is sort of coming down. And I think this all goes back to President Obama and Obamacare. He realized that you couldn't go from where we were to single payer, so Obamacare was a stepping stone to the takeover of our healthcare system by government.
Is there any way to get it back?
Well, I'm hoping so. I mean, I think, Donald Trump and the Republicans were, elected to Congress. Donald Trump was elected president, and the Republicans took Congress, the Senate, and the House. Their big push, and I think the reason they won, was they said they were going to repeal and replace disastrous Obamacare. As you know, by late September of last year, they had been unable to repeal and replace in full Obamacare. So we have to, we have to continue with that push to repeal and replace Obamacare, because it is a disaster. People can't afford in the exchanges the premiums, deductibles. Many plans, if you have a family deductible of $12,500, most middle-income Americans can't afford to reach that before their insurance kicks in. Small networks of doctors and hospitals, young people not buying coverage because they have to pay so much to cover those people who have pre-existing conditions or are older. So I think in the midterm elections and in the 2020 presidential elections, it is so important for the Republicans to come up with a plan that empowers doctors and patients and not the government. But it's so interesting that the Dems, who were supporting this bipartisan plan by Lamar Alexander, the Republican senator, and Patty Murray, Democratic senator from Washington State, for the government to fund the cost-sharing reduction subsidies and reinsurance to the insurers. And then at the last minute, the Democrats said, oh, hold on, Obamacare is imploding, and therefore we don't want to support the stabilization package because we want to go to single payer. And you're seeing certainly Bernie Sanders' plan is, he's out there, just going after the American people, saying we need single payer. And then we're seeing in many states the push, California, Washington State, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, they're all now pushing for a system that would result in long waits. The average wait today in Canada from seeing a primary care doctor to getting treatment by a specialist is 21.2 weeks. That's over 5 months. Back in 93, it was only 9.3 weeks. So, if government took over the healthcare system, and of course Bernie Sanders' plan, he never says how much it's going to cost or who's going to pay for it.
Well, it's just gotten bad. It's just gotten worse. I mean, we've gone from the godless HMOs to the godless government bureaucracies, and then we're having algorithms figure out whether or not we get medicines, and people dictating that your doctor isn't right about your prescription. It's the insurance company that wants your medicine, and they want to make it cheaper. And never mind what's good for you. I mean, we've lost it all. We've lost the doctor-patient connection with this big Obamacare.
Well, exactly. And Obamacare celebrated its 8th birthday on last Friday, March 23rd. And, the American people, don't like it. It is imploding. I mean, certainly under President Trump, while Obamacare wasn't repealed and replaced, some of the things that are, exciting, the sort of getting rid of Obamacare, one, the tax reform package in December included repealing the individual mandate effective January 1st next year. And then the executive orders to allow short-term insurance plans to, you can sign up for a plan for 364 days instead of the 3 months that they were reduced to under Obamacare. The allowing of the association health plans where small businesses could group together and get a better rate and have a larger pool. So some of these things are really, good stepping stones, but it's unfortunate that the law was not repealed and replaced. But we have to push on with these executive orders and allowing more competition. As you say, HMOs were a disaster in the 90s. And if people didn't like the HMO, why would they like a healthcare system where the government is in control and that you can't call up your dermatologist and get an appointment, or your cardiologist? You'd have to get a referral from a primary care doc to treatment, and you'd have long waits and care would be rationed. I mean, America's where people come for the very best in medical devices, in treatments and things, and this is all going to be destroyed if we go down this path to Medicare for all.
Amazing. Sally, keep up the good work. If people want more information, what can they do?
So my book is available on Amazon.com, The False Promise of Single-Payer Healthcare. Our website, www.pacificresearch.org.
All right. You've got an open invitation to come on in.
Okay, thank you. Talk to you soon.
All right, Sally, we appreciate you. Let's get to the phone calls. Dan in Middleton with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Kevin. Hey, it's too bad that lady didn't get into what you have to have in order to vote in Canada. They have a very strict voter ID law in both Canada and in Mexico. In fact, their the Mexico voter ID is probably as good as the best United States ID. It's holographic. It's got a really good picture. They have to have it updated every so many years. I think it's every 5 years, so that the picture is accurate. They use that for ID even more than they use a passport. So there should be no reason, when both our northern and southern neighbors who have larger numbers of minorities than we do, who are disadvantaged, and they seem to be able to get them to vote. So I don't see any obstruction. The lie that comes up that it disenfranchises the poor and minority, just ask anybody that's poor or a minority if they believe that the voter ID would keep them from voting.
Dan, great point. Thank you.
I'm glad I made it before the Limburger and sardine sandwich that is Steve, the Pinko. So I'll talk to you later, buddy.
All right, Dan. Take care. Thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Liberal Steve joins us now at KIDO Talk Radio, a popular man this morning.
Yeah, I know. I've been out working on the old fence there, since about 6:10 this morning. I heard Liberal Steve coming up a lot then, a lot. I got a lot of people apparently that just love me, especially that little Danny boy that was just on. Is he from Ireland? Oh, Danny boy. Anyway, Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller. Oh, and that Como that you just had on with her book. I've read the book. That's the pill companies out there trying to stop Americans from getting good health care. Canada has beautiful health care. And your Chinese book guy there, come on. China owns more farmland than most Americans own. I mean, they own some of the biggest hog and pig factories in the United States.
They don't have the one in Cuna, do they?
I don't know. I haven't researched that, but I know the one in West Virginia is huge, and they own it, lock, stock, and barrel. And wasn't our governor here, our governor that we now have, trying to give our mountain gold away to the Chinese?
He did a lot of business, and you know this because you've been with me for many, many years. We were the only ones that informed people that we have a state office. We employ the Chinese to get us business, and we have state offices in Jingzhou and Jingjing, and no one else has reported that, and they're employed by the state of Idaho.
Absolutely, and I have it through very good source that our potatoes won't have any tariff put on them, any increase.
Wow.
Because the Chinese like their French fries.
Well, that's reassuring for the Chinese, yes.
Yes, there's not going to be any big wars between the United States and Korea. All this is put on by the deep state. They just keep people wrapped up in fear. And I want to tell Right to Life, if you slip on any ice and break your hip, I don't want you to show up at the hospital and ask them to fix it for free. Since he don't have any hospital insurance, he said, and he won't even take Medicare. What a fool. Anyway, Miller,
it's been a while. You must have been lonely. This is like reviewing commentary over the last few days of this program.
Well, I'm trying to build up the courage to go to the dentist, and I don't have any dental insurance. And I was just there 3 weeks ago, and it cost me $1,190.
You got to watch out for the dentist. They always try to upsell you.
I know. I love it. But I like my teeth. I like to eat.
If you find a good dentist, and I have a good dentist, then you're good to go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I found a good dentist. It's a her.
That's reassuring. Pete in Mountain Home. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Hello, Pete.
Kevin, I just want to thank Steve for that brilliant international and exposition there on the entire world. I would like to point out if the government is paying for your health care, then the government gets to decide what health care you get.
Yep.
And what Sarah Palin said about death panels was politically incorrect, but it was very true. You go to England or Canada, and they will decide when you reach a certain age that it's no longer worth spending money on your health care because you're just a drain on the society. And if they let you die, they don't have to pay your pension, right?
Or they'll just send you to Oregon, or I believe Massachusetts is looking at, killing people and stuff.
Yeah. And then on a completely different note, I have a shopping report from Boise. I went to Independence Indoor Range, and that's a really nice facility. I can strongly recommend that. And let's see, I also went to Buckhorn Gun Store and found a really, really nice little top-break Smith & Wesson revolver from about 1905. So there's a recommendation. If you're going to Boise, there's lots of really nice gun stores, and you ought to stop in and just pay them all a visit.
Well, Pete, we'll send you the check is in the mail.
You bet, yeah. Free advertising.
Have a great day, sir.
Okay, you too, Kevin.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you all for joining us. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Big forum last night at the old executive building here. Let's plug in. Let's take a listen to some of the candidates going toe-to-toe.
It's really kind of a funny question because it's actually, I hear it quite often. I work the Nampa Gun Show all the time, and we get people from Oregon that come over, and they're like, please don't be mad at us. We consider ourselves political refugees. And they want to know when we're going to annex Eastern Oregon. I'm like, well, yeah, whenever you want to. And I said, but just go ahead and pretend you're us. It works. But the point here is that they're frustrated. And because when we talk about a culture war, it's about the Constitution, but it's also a fight. It's Christians versus atheists. It's pro-life versus pro-choice, right? It's gay versus straight. These are the fights that are going on in our nation, and we have to make sure that we come out on top. That's where our problems lie. We need to engage our churches.
There we have it, Representative Christy Perry, one of the candidates at the forum last night. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO if you would like to sound off on that. By the way, some great columns at KIDOTalkRadio.com where you can find out information about our app. Also, you can find out a really good news concerning the state of Idaho, and that Idaho leads the nation in wage growth. Also, a clip on Idaho's Most Wanted. More details at KIDO Talk Radio. Coming up next, speaking of this, there's a column there, what the blank is going on with our gas prices. First, traffic and weather together.
Since oil prices are usually about half the retail gasoline price, they get to decide. They are the biggest factor in what happens to the retail price. If they go down quickly, we won't see further increases. But if they don't, we're going to see a few more pennies from that, and the higher demand this time of year for gasoline, and the higher cost of making spring and summer blends that's required by government formula.
There we have it, Trilby Lundberg, who has the market cornered. I don't even know if she has a podcast, pardon me, but she's always yapping about gasoline prices going up and down and everything else. And I love this. Oh, every year gas prices go up, gas prices go down. No, they go up. And, the last week, what is it, 6, 7, 8 cents a gallon that we've seen the price increase? You got to be kidding me. You have to be kidding me. Think about this. Here we haven't sent a man on the moon in a long time. Here we have these the self-driving cars aren't doing too well. And yet we have gas going up. They are slowly boiling us to death like that frog, right? There's no reason for gas prices to go up, except the greedy, grubby oil companies once again, they're pulling the old boy on us. Hopefully we'll be waking up. I love this, the demand this time of year. It's March, not June. It's the same old talking points. KIDO Talk Radio, Tea Party Bob joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you this morning? Immigrants every place. We have immigrants no matter where we go. What's interesting to me about the census conundrum is how much personal information people are willing to give up on social media like Facebook and Google. But we have this huge protest about filling out a census form, which is totally confidential. Maybe we should use Facebook and the Google data to do our census instead of actually doing the census. It might be more accurate. The importance of adding this question is between 20 and 22 million non-citizens are expected to be counted in 2020. Half of those are expected to be legal residents. According to the Director of Research for the Center of Immigration Studies, 40 million immigrants, citizen, non-citizens, counted in 2010 census resulted in a redistribution of 18 House seats. Of those 18 seats, 16 of those states voted for President Obama in 2012. An undercount in 2020 would affect California the most. The real worry for California is that most legal U.S. citizens have been leaving the state and moving, we could say Idaho, leaving the immigrants there to fill in their places. That's going to cost them billions in federal aid. Keep in mind that a majority of the nation's undocumented immigrants live in just 20 metropolitan areas, according to 2014 Pew Research Center. 1 million in New York and Los Angeles, 575,000 in Houston, and 475,000 in Dallas. That makes the urban leaders, most Democrats, alarmed by this possibility of the citizenship question. And primarily because we're talking about the distribution of $675 billion a year in federal funding. You know, the fact that illegal immigrants should be afraid of filling out census forms for fear of being arrested has no basis in fact, as the federal government is barred by law from using raw individualized census data for law enforcement purposes. It's time to get rid of those last onerous remnants of the Obama era and get some more accurate count on citizens who are legal.
But it comes down to these judges and the Attorney General of California that's going to try and arrest the Orange County Sheriff because the Orange County Sheriff wants to enforce federal law, not the illegal state laws. It's crazy.
Well, look, I mean, a lot of this has happened since the Obama era. I think we are all pretty well aware of that. And what we need to do is to continue to scrape all of the scum off of this country that was left by him and his administration. And it's going to take a long time. This is a big cleaning job. In fact, maybe that car wash that you're going to be at on Thursday could help us do some of that.
Well, it's over by where you live. You should stop by and see us.
I'll definitely be down and say hello.
Oh, we'll see you tomorrow.
Take care, Kevin. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Our great friend Tea Party Bob. Coming up next, we'll go in depth concerning California's rebellion. Do they really want to be part of the nation? And if you have relatives in the state, maybe it's time for them to get out. I don't know about coming to Idaho. We got a lot of folks here already. Number one. Number two, the media's attack on Donald Trump's family. Is it great or is it off the rails? In other words, with Stormy, Sean was talking a little bit about this yesterday at KIDO Talk Radio on our great station here. And just the viciousness of the attacks and how personal it's gotten. What has Donald Trump ever done to these folks? And isn't that between his family, or is it anything goes? And how would any of us feel if we had a family member going through what the president's going through? I'll explain next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug. Good. And coming up, more of your phone calls. First, William Geen joins us from AliPac USA, our great friend, conservative firebrand, the freedom fighter, friend of Lindsey Graham. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Kevin.
I thought I could get a laugh out of you with the Senator Graham reference, but nothing to joke about when we're looking at the DACAs, the Dreamers, and they came so close to getting that amnesty that many of the progressives, the libs, both Republicans and Democrats wanted.
Yeah, they did. And, one of the things I want to point out is while we fought to successfully stop it, and, I really hate the fact that we had to rely on socialist Democrats to stop the amnesty bill. That puts us in a very awkward situation of having to thank Democrats for, being the ones to save the country from, and they made a big mistake. I mean, the reason they voted against Trump's amnesty was it was going to take 10 years for them to take full control of the country instead of 4 to 6. So they were very impatient, and they had an opportunity there. But we fought, and we did win again, even when people were telling us that we couldn't win because Trump's betrayal on the issue was going to carry this amnesty through. So we're continuing to try to resist Trump's betrayal on the amnesty issues, and we're trying to get people focused in on some of these GOP primary races around the country where we have candidates who are running who are, willing to promise voters like Trump did, that they oppose amnesty to try to win, because that's where the big disconnect is. The disconnect is between your Republican, non-socialist, independent voters and the politicians. So you got a bunch of people running around telling us one thing during the election, then going to D.C. and jumping into the swamp so comfortably you'd think they were getting in a hot tub at Mar-a-Lago.
Speaking of which, if we don't have Trump, who do we have?
Well, I'm encouraging Ann Coulter to run for president. And the reason I'm doing that is because of the following. One, I think if Ann Coulter were to announce a run against Trump, it might decrease the amount of betrayals of his base that's going on. It would give us a contrast, and it would give a voice to the millions of Trump supporters that are paying very close attention to everything he does, that feel very betrayed by him on many campaign promises. So we're trying to encourage Ann Coulter to run as a stabilization, a salvage effect, because, this illegal immigration thing, while Trump is continuing to give large swaths of illegals immunity from our current laws, my desk or screen is full every day of more reports of Americans raped and killed and losing their jobs, or worse, from illegals. So that's not something that we're patient for. 15 months in, Trump promised us he would oppose and end DACA. He lied about that. He promised us he would create a deportation force and that illegals had to go home. He lied about that. He promised us he'd build a wall. There's no wall. He didn't stick it to his guns on the wall in the budget. In fact, this budget bill has language specifically prohibiting the building of a wall. All we have is some good-looking prototypes sitting there. And have you seen the video of the illegal immigrants climbing over the wall or the fence into the United States in front of the prototype?
No.
There's a video on our site at alipac.us. You can see a whole illegal immigrant family scale the inadequate fencing right there in front of Trump's prototypes and go over to a Border Patrol agent who directs them to the nearest office where they can receive their taxpayer assistance to get into the rest of the United States through catch and release. There's very little difference between what's going on right now on illegal immigration issues and what went on under Barack Obama. And I will stick my professional name on that as the man who has created and manages the world's largest archive of information on this topic, that's what in truth is happening. And it's very disappointing. You have a lot of Trump supporters who, to be honest with you, are being very weak on this issue. They feel trapped and whatnot, and my sympathies are running out for them because they want to continue to suck up to this president long after it's become clear that he's betrayed us on many of his key issues. And therefore, he has no incentive to change his way as long as they continue to do that.
William Gein joining us from Alipac. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. So let's get down to the dirty details. When we're looking at conservatives, are you going to have them have a pledge or something so they don't do the Paul Ryan bait and switch?
Well, right now we have a survey that we've asked people in a national survey. We're looking for candidates that support the existing border and immigration laws of the United States and oppose any form of amnesty, DACA, Dreamer, or comprehensive, whatever you want to call it, that would further compromise and destroy those laws. That's the binary choice that we have here. And we're looking for candidates that will stand with the American public that overwhelmingly wants, our existing laws enforced, because there's really no point in us even having these elections. These elections are a mass fraud upon the American public if we're going to have, and all this expense of Congress and Congress spending us into generations of debt to the Chinese and the Saudis. What's the point in all of that when they go up there, they vote, they pass laws, presidents sign them into laws, and then those laws don't get enforced because big business and billionaires like George Soros don't want our immigration laws enforced. We're standing there. We voted. We've gone through the entire process, yet the American people are not in control of our national destiny. We are not in control of the actual policies of the United States of America. And that's what America is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about we the people running the show through our representative republic, and that's not happening. And one of the reasons it's not happening is in the political party structure. The Republican platforms across the country are against illegal immigration and support, lots of people who care the most to go to very boring and sometimes contentious conventions in the states to set the Republican Party platform, have no control over what their candidates do and no ability to kick them out. So John McCain and Lindsey Graham and Dean Heller or Donald Trump or anybody else can go to Washington, D.C. or your state house and completely violate the platform, completely violate their campaign promises, and the Republican Party has no control over that. We'd like to see a new party, maybe the MAGA party, maybe the Make America Great Again party, and have this party be different than the others where it has a provision. The European political parties, they've got this down, Kevin. If you don't stick with their party platform in Europe, then they kick you out. You can't run as that person, and that's what we need. We need a situation where a person cannot run and as a Republican candidate if the party withdraws the brand from them do these violations. It doesn't matter in Europe anymore. The socialists are in permanent control there now, and with the amount of Muslims, refugees that are being pumped into the place, they're in permanent control forevermore, and they're the equivalent of what was once the conservatives or Republican parties like the U.S. They still hold a couple seats here and there, but they're powerless forevermore due to immigration-vectored political tools. And so we're close to that here in the United States. The question is, Trump not doing what he said he would do. Does that take us beyond the point of no return? Ann Coulter seems to think that we are, and that from this point forward that it's just a matter of us watching the country be destroyed. And if she believes that, and I believe she might be right, I hope she'll run. I hope she'll run, and at least, even if she can't beat Trump or win the presidency, she can have a larger sort of, megaphone there to tell people, look, and I'm advising, Ann Coulter said, run for president and run on everything Trump promised. Take everything significant that Trump promised the American public. Say, that's my campaign platform. The difference is I actually mean it. I will actually do these things. And make that. And a lot of our Trump supporters at first were like, oh, no, I can't believe Ann Coulter's doing this. She's going to mess things up. Oh, no, she's running against my man Trump. I don't like it. But then when they see that she's running on the exact same things that Trump promised them, but pointing out how he's not doing it and she will, I think it's a great strategy. But, we'll see how it flies.
Bill Geen, if people want to get a hold of you, what can they do?
We're on the web at www.alipac.us. That's alipac.us. Really appreciate people's support, with what we're trying to do here, because we're trying to save every life and job we can from the illegal immigrant invasion and overthrow of the American Republic.
William Geen, thank you, sir. Take care.
Take care.
All right, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. The only person that could follow that guy, Liberty Linda, good morning.
Good morning. I actually think I met him when I was living in California. So he's a very interesting guy, and I would vote for Ann Coulter. Anyone that's going to give us, back our country, I'll vote for him or her. Anyway,
even over your beloved Donald Trump.
Well, let's let Donald to finish, his 8 years, and then see what's going to happen. Because I'm hoping that he will eventually take care of everything he promised us. I mean, at this point in time, he's done absolutely marvelous. I'm not real happy for what he just signed. It sounded very wonderful the way he explained it. Then when I heard about some of the things that he put in there, or they had him put in there, no, I'm not happy about some of those things, But I still have family in California, and they still love that state and have no plans on moving. There are some there that are ready to ride it out. And they are praying common sense to come back to their beautiful state. They're hoping that our government sometime will step in and actually do something about a sanctuary state. I don't think our founding fathers ever even knew that term of a sanctuary state. What do you think? I don't think so.
No, not at all. And you can't sit there and say you're going to enforce state law and not enforce federal law. There has to be consistency in the, do the people running California want to be part of the United States of America?
Right. Well, it's opposite against the our wonderful country. It has nothing to do with our country. I don't understand it whatsoever. And I'm sure most of your listeners don't either, and your callers. So anyway, common sense back to California. That's what we're all praying for, because it will help the rest of our nation.
Liberty Linda, God bless.
Well, you as well, Kevin. We love you. Keep on doing what you're doing.
Well, I hope to. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
More of your calls next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to Dwight in Boise. Dwight, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. I want to take off from, I think it was your last out-of-town guest, William Geen. He's missing an opportunity. I support a lot of what he's saying, but he's missing the opportunity to be a leader, not just a complainer, but a leader. The people must be challenged. Conservatives must be challenged to stand up and actually go out and do things that command media attention. And even before we get major media attention, we go out and we complain or call the liberals on what they're doing. The reason that conservatives are betraying us is because they're not afraid of us. The liberals are out there on the streets, but the conservatives aren't. Now, I'm not talking about doing what the liberals do, which is to go out and lie. We need to go out on the street and tell the truth about liberals and liberalism, and tell the truth about Donald Trump. And I support Donald Trump, but Geen is right. He is getting squishy, and who wouldn't? He's just one man. Here's another thing that people need to think about. For us to sit on our haunches and let Donald Trump do our fighting for us is cowardly. It is immoral. It is wrong every way you can say it. For us to stand by and let little snot-nosed kids steal all the thunder of the media nationwide and not challenge them, not be a counter force, demonstrating in front of media outlets that lie, demonstrating in front of the FBI that lies, that are criminals, demonstrating in front of every government agency and making videos of it and putting it up on YouTube and calling talk radio. And by the way, Kevin, I know you want to know, how might this affect your show? What your callers, your listeners doing on the streets would boost the listenership of your show, the size of your show, the audience of your show would explode. And there's one other thing I want to say, and then I'll get off. People need to make a commitment. We live in a world of commitments and contracts. People need to sign a commitment form, a pledge form, to be an active citizen, to be an effective citizen, to be an informed citizen, and to not just whine and complain on talk radio, but get out in the public forum and make a difference and carry the day. And I think it would be easier than most people think if we would begin to do effective things and intelligent things.
Dwight, thank you for the call. We appreciate it. Traffic and weather together. Just listening to some of the media, and I understand that some of y'all have lives, and hopefully, you listen to this program, and this is where you get your source for opinion and information, whether it's with us, whether it's with Glenn Beck, whether it's everybody else at 580-5436-580-KIO, whether it's with our great friend Sean Hannity or Lars Larson, because it gets crazy when we hear these attacks, these vicious attacks on the president. But before we get to that, Mark Zuckerberg, and most of us use Facebook, he was asked in 2009 by the BBC on who's going to control the content of Facebook. Now, this is important because Zuckerberg, being the capitalist that he is, being the bait-and-switch millennial that he is, has pulled a fast one, and now people are upset. Really, there is no expectation of privacy on social media, right? We've given up our right for privacy. And I'll expand on that in the Miller Minute later on today, but take a listen.
Who is going to own the Facebook content? The person who puts it there, or you?
The person who's putting the content on Facebook always owns the information, and that's why this is such an important thing, and why Facebook is such a special service that people feel a lot of ownership over. Right? This is their information; they own it.
And you won't sell it?
They often want to. No, of course not. I mean, they.
You won't sell it, Zuck? Hey, Zuck, are you going to sell it?
Want to share it with only a few people.
So just to be clear, you're not going to sell or share any of the information on Facebook.
What the terms say is just, we're not going to share people's information except for with the people that they've asked for it to be shared.
There we have it. The truth shall set you free. Amazing. Zuckerberg in 2009. Now you're going to have people before Congress going at him, but in reality, unless they're going to regulate Facebook, which is another conversation, I don't think that's going to happen. By the way, coming up tomorrow, our first salute of the Treasure Valley cities. We're starting off in Meridian. Thanks to our friends at Ultra Touch Car Wash, home of your non-ethanol fuel in the Treasure Valley. We're going to be hanging out right there, right next to, some call it Fairview. I like to call it Cherry Lane. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The only show that hits the streets. No, we're not working the streets. We're hitting the streets. So please join us tomorrow. And then next week, we're back in the schools. Looking forward to, again, getting out and shaking a lot of hands and hearing what you have to say, not just from the broadcast center, but from your home, your community. So blessed to be a part of your day. Thank you, Ray Amaya. Great job. Please, everyone, keep the faith and God bless.